It's less of a worry than it used to be, mostly due to taking more of a fatalistic attitude. I think we'll not be able to hold a candle to AI. It's not necessarily bad. It's definitely going to be outside of human control. The danger is going to be more humans using it against each other, I think, most likely. That'll be the danger. I talked to everyone I could. No one seemed to realize where this was going. It's going to be very tempting to use AI as a weapon. It's going to be very tempting. In fact, it will be used as a weapon. Like leaves on a big tree. And we're all feeding this network without questions and answers. We're all collectively programming the AI. And Google plus all the humans that connect to it are one giant cybernetic collective. This is also true of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these social networks. They're giant cybernetic collectives. We're building progressively greater intelligence, and the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Maybe they will. So far they haven't. Normally the way that regulations work is very slow indeed. So usually there'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. If you look at, say, automotive regulations, how long did it take for seatbelts to be implemented, to be required? The auto industry fought seatbelts, I think, for more than a decade. Successfully fought any regulations on seatbelts, even though the numbers were extremely obvious. If you had a seatbelt on, you would be far less likely to die or be seriously injured. It was unequivocal. And the industry fought this for years, successfully. Eventually, after many, many people died, regulators insisted on seatbelts. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late. It could be terrible, and it could be great. It's not clear. But one thing is for sure, we will not control it. If you can't beat it, join it. Things are getting more and more connected. They're, at this point, constrained by bandwidth. Our input-output is slow, particularly output. From a long-term existential standpoint, that's like the purpose of Neuralink, is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI. I think best case scenario, we effectively merge with AI. That could be a good outcome. That could be quite a positive outcome for the future. It will enable anyone who wants to have superhuman cognition. Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. Most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself. It's just that the data rate, the rate at which, or the communication rate between you and the cybernetic extension of yourself that is your phone and computer is slow. It's very slow. And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. And we need to make that tiny straw like a giant river, a huge, high bandwidth interface. It's an interface problem, data rate problem. If we solve the data rate problem, then I think we can hang on to human-machine symbiosis through the long term. And then people may decide that they want to retain their biological self or not. I think they'll probably choose to retain their biological self. You know, if you just go and try living in the woods by yourself for a while, and you'll learn that civilization is quite great. It has a lot of it. People want to come back to civilization pretty fast. Well, happiness is reality minus expectations. It will be, at some point, indistinguishable from reality. This could be some simulation. The argument for the simulation, I think, is quite strong, because if you assume any improvement at all over time, any improvement, 1%, 0.1%, just extend the time frame, make it 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. What would civilization, if you're very generous, civilization is maybe 7,000 or 8,000 years old, if you count it from the first writing. This is nothing. This is nothing. So, if you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality. Or civilization will end. One of those two things will occur. Anyway, I don't want to sound like things are too dark, because I think you kind of have to be optimistic about the future. There's no point in being pessimistic. It's just too negative. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. If you're pessimistic, it's going to be miserable. Enjoy the journey. I mean, ultimately, you know, even if we just sort of existed as humans forever, we'd still eventually, that'd be like the heat death of the universe. A zillion years from now. Eventually, it's going to end. So it really is all about the journey. The universe as we know it will dissipate into a fine mist of cold nothingness eventually. It's really just about how can we make it last longer. I think most likely, this is just about probability, there are many, many simulations. These simulations are, we might as well call them reality, or you could call them the multiverse. That substrate is probably boring. Well, when we create a simulation, like a game or a movie, it's a distillation of what's interesting about life. You know, like it take a year to shoot an action movie, and then that's all distilled down into 2 or 3 hours. So, let me tell you, if you see an action movie being filmed, it's boring. Super boring. There's like lots of takes, everything's in a green screen. Looks pretty goofy, doesn't look cool. But once you add the CGI and have great editing, it's amazing. So, I think most likely, if we're a simulation, it's really boring outside the simulation. Because why would you make a simulation that's boring? It makes the simulation way more interesting than base reality. When you're in that virtual reality, which is only going to get better, where are you? Where are you really? You aren't anywhere. You might be in a computer. I mean, I think we should take the set of actions that are most likely to make the future better, and then reevaluate those actions to make sure that it's true.